All right, so we're gonna get started. Really excited for this month's webinar on using AI for early stage design. Thank you everyone for joining us today. So uh, today's session is going to focus on a very specific challenge that many firms are dealing with right now, which is using Revit in a lot of cases or finding a really good connected workflow for early stage design. So we spent the last several months testing various different AI tools, rendering workflows, conceptual design platforms to understand which tools make the most sense to integrate into your workflow. So we're going to be going through a connected workflow today. We'll talk about Forma, we'll talk about Google Gemini, and we'll go through the gamut. So first off, let me introduce myself. Uh, I am Uchenna Okara. I'm the founder and CEO of Revit Gods. I'm an architect by training. My superpower has always been making complex technology digestible and usable for teams. That's how Rubber Gods got started. And it's more me, being pretty much a tech nerd, but I've always just been really good at translating those tools and translating tools into workflows that people can adopt. So we're doing that again now with AI. So joining me here is also going to be one of our lead BIM specialists. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thank you so much for including me in this, Uchenna. Hello, everyone. My name is William Hoey. I am a BIM specialist at Revit Gods. Every superhero needs his sidekick, and that's exactly where I come into play on the Revit Gods team. I've always been kind of leaned more towards the technological side of the architecture field, and that's kind of what's brought me here as we continue to really push the boundaries on what technology can do, especially going into the AI field. So really excited to see and show you what we have in store today. So thank you.
Okay, so first off, let me tell you about Revit Gods. If you are new to us, haven't heard of us, we are a BIM management and consulting firm. We work with architecture firms, owners, contractors to help them improve their workflow, establish BIM standards, coordinate a lot of their projects, and help them manage data across all of their projects. So one of the reasons why we're excited about these AI tools is because we see a major opportunity to solve a workflow gap that we've been seeing across many of our clients. Our clients have been asking us to give them guidance on this sort of all the AI tools that have been coming out. So yeah, and we see one of the biggest gaps in being able to solve the conceptual design challenge. So these are the primary areas that we generally support our clients. And again, we're excited to really dive into what is now becoming sort of a new practice of developing a fully connected workflow from early stage design all the way to operations, which is what we're starting to really step into, especially with our recent partnership with Autodesk. So here's what we are going to be talking about today. All right. First, we want to just kind of give you guys a lay of the land, and describe why we feel we need way more early stage design tools. We'll talk about Autodesk Forma. We'll give you a breakdown of the general landscape of AI tools and what's out there, how to use Gemini to create some really compelling images. And then we'll give you some final thoughts and we'll get into some Q&A. Now, if you guys have any questions, there's a Q&A, there's a questions panel, so you could pop them in throughout the length of this presentation, and we will deal with all the we'll answer any questions you have at the end. So I want to launch into a poll, and let's launch into. So we're going to launch a poll. We just have two questions, so we get a good understanding of where everyone's at in this conversation. So the first one is, which tool is your team currently using for early stage design? Um, and the next one is, how is your team currently using AI? So take a bit if you guys can hop in, answer those a few questions. All right, we got some responses coming in. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna end the poll and let's share those results. Okay, so it looks like uh yeah, so it looks like many of you are in fact actually using Revit for early stage design. Many of you are, there's a mix of like CAD, Rhino, SketchUp, but mostly everyone here is using Revit in some stage of their early stage design. And it seems like half of everyone here in this conversation is starting to use AI. Some of you guys use it daily like we do. Um, and there's the other half of you guys haven't started yet. So we're excited that thank you for joining us and trusting us through this journey. All right, so let's dive in. So first off, I'm going to talk through why early stage design feels so difficult in Revit. Now, one of the biggest things that we want to establish that Revit is an incredibly powerful tool, but it was never originally designed to be a rapid conceptual design platform. Revit is fundamentally a data management platform in a documentation environment. While early stage design is super different, where it requires really fast iteration. You need to be able to test ideas quickly, evaluate sites, do zoning analysis. There's all these different things that early stage design needs to be successful. So so that's, I think why there's this huge need to have some other tools come into the play to make this actually successful, right? Because realistically, when we're in early stage design, I mean, many of you, if you went to architecture school or any form of design school, this is how we think. We normally sketch things out. We're developing things with our hand. We're touching material, and we do a lot of work before it gets into a computer. And then somehow that gets lost when Revit, which is realistically a data management platform, where we have to enter in all this data before we actually can get to our conceptual design. So there's sort of a bottleneck of what's been created in the market, and we want to try to help to solve a lot of that. Because realistically, when we look at conceptual design or early stage design, there's so many factors that we have to look at when it comes to site analysis, zoning, scope. There's many things that we want to consider that Revit isn't necessarily the best at. But what we want to do is try to take some other tools and connect it to our documentation platform. Now, the good news is that what Autodesk has done is they've made sort of this huge pivotal shift in developing this platform called Forma. So I went to AU last year, and last year AU they kind of hinted at this, but in the recent months they sort of took Forma and kind of like brushed it over all their products. So it almost feels like, you know it's like the King the Conqueror of Forma. You see Forma across everything, so it's a little confusing about what Forma is supposed to be and what it is. So let me just do a quick breakdown of Forma for everyone here today. So first off, um, Forma is designed to be an end-to-end platform for to connect planning, design, construction, and operations. There are a myriad of products that Forma provides. So before, each of these products had different names associated with it. Some of these products are included in your auto. If you have an AEC collection license, some of these products are already included within it, which is one of the reasons why we thought it was important to do this webinar because we want um, we want people to get the most out of their current subscriptions. So if you have a subscription, Forma site design, which we're going to talk through, and Forma building design is included in your subscription, in your AEC collection subscription. And you should also have access to Forma Carbon Insights. Okay. So these three will be included in your subscription. And then what if you formerly had BIM Collaborate Pro or ACC, Autodesk Construction Cloud, um, that normally has its own list of things, but the base tier gives you access to that design collaboration where you can collaborate in the cloud for all of your Revit products. So we're in today's discussion, we're just going to talk about Forma site design and Forma building design. But the idea is to take Forma and be able to use it end to end throughout the entire experience. So, so as designers, you guys might you're going to realistically be involved in this planning and design phase, but maybe later on, um, help them with this operation phase, which outside of Forma, there's some other really great products that we're going to talk about in future webinars. So with that, I'm going to kick it over to Will to give us a technical breakdown of Forma.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Uchenna. Okay, so while I break down Forma, one thing to kind of note here is to get to Forma, which is a browser-based kind of software. You're going to want to navigate to app.autodeskforma.com. You might have to log in with your credentials, but after you do so, it should bring you generally to this page here. Now, for those of you who are familiar with kind of the construction cloud, previously known as the construction cloud, you kind of had a splash page for all of your projects. And generally speaking, this kind of home page here is what is also going to house your Forma projects as well. Now, the two big pieces that we're going to be creating today are site design and building design. Um, We'll go over those momentarily, but really this is more just about kind of locating just your overall projects. You can invite members via email to collaborate with you on either the site design or building design. They kind of work together. And once you have a project created, you will be able to see any of your design iterations located here as well. With that being said, let's get into site design. So with site design, this is really going to be more about kind of that urban or master planning, large scale view, I would say, from a design standpoint. And so you start off really by specifying your general area that you want to place some massing in. So for today's discussion, we're going to be locating a part of Boston, Massachusetts. You have the ability to kind of include this general scope area. And once you do, it will give you more or less that area as your context. Once it kind of loads in, it will prompt you to kind of create or load in some additional context here. So, for example, you can load in terrain, you can load in trees, roadways, buildings as well. So you don't necessarily have to worry about modeling all of that context. Depending on your geolocation, you should potentially have some that you can load in directly based on this little pop-up window here, which generally speaking usually pops up as soon as you create your site. So once we get some buildings loaded in here, let's start to orbit around and see kind of what the various features and tools are that we have in site design. So site design itself works in kind of an iterative process. So at the top, you have the ability to create various iterations within your one project, and these are known as proposals. So you can create proposal one, proposal two, so on and so forth, based on these different design options that you might have here. Now, one of the great features that we'll be exploring today is the site automation feature, but you also have the ability to really just place in some general massing as well if you want to. You also can import in some various file types, although you can't necessarily import in a Revit model. You would have to save it out as like an IFC file or something similar. So just as a heads up there, I don't want anyone to get the wrong impression. But one of the features that really stood out to me was this site automation tool. And really what the first thing that it asks for is just your overall kind of site boundary extents. So whether you're tracing over a property line or just kind of a very generic outline of what your site might be. As soon as you do this, it begins to place some um, options for massing and how the site might break down automatically. With this, you can begin to control via the nodes kind of how the shapes of these massings behave relative to each other on the site. You'll also have this panel on the right, which can cycle through various building types that Forma has. So it gives you like a mixed feature or a longer linear building, tower option, or again, like a mixed option of the two. You can also add in more nodes if you would like to get even more specific, or you can drag, again, any of these kind of boundary or perimeter lines to adjust some of the massing here too. You can also specify the story height, the floor height, generally speaking, the building width. Again, it kind of specifies building versus tower. Depending on which layout type you choose, but you can specify the width there too. So again, a really quick and easy way to kind of play around with various automated massing on your site just to kind of see what some options might be here. Now, of course, you can always, you know, choose to be more precise by just creating individual massing, and that kind of gets more into the building design aspect, which we'll discover momentarily. But really, another cool feature of the Forma site design is that it comes with a lot of these analytical tools. So we have things like daylight analysis, microclimate analysis, solar energy. We can do a shadow study, or even noise reduction or a noise analysis as well. So for this one, I'm actually going to be running a daylight potential analysis. It usually takes a pretty quick amount of time to run the analysis. And once you have it run, it's going to bring up this kind of separate window here, which you can orbit around, and it applies kind of a color scheme or a color legend to the various massing here. So the dark blue or the darkest blue is the areas of the massing and the surrounding context that would get the least amount of daylight. And of course, the lightest color on the gradient scale being the one that would get the most amount of sunlight here. It gives it and assigns it this kind of predetermined score, which again was a little bit difficult to understand at first, but once you start really playing around with the massing, you can really kind of dial in what that score might be for those various areas. The other piece to this, and I found this really great as well, is that you can also implement a very quick shadow study. Um, Not only can you specify, the day of the year and the time of the day, but you can also specify the frequency in which you want it to capture the shadow study itself. And apart from that, you can also export each um, time increment as an individual image. For this, I'm just going to be using the preview option so you can kind of see it cycle through different times of the day. But again, each of these individually can be exported as images. So you can really have something to export out, whether you're doing a presentation in InDesign or other third-party software. It's super useful tool here. So those kind of some of the bigger takeaways of site design itself. Um, but let's also get into the next big piece to this, which is going to be building design. So in order to cycle through from site design to building design, you can go to the top left and just click on the where it says Forma site design. It'll just cycle through to building design to switch over. And you'll notice that the massing actually stays with me and my context and my roadways. Everything that I kind of had generated from site design also works and gets converted over to the building design as well. So you can easily switch back and forth once we have created this building in building design. We can also then switch back to site analysis to further analyze, do a shadow study or two, some daylight potential, and go from there. Now, the great thing about building design is that you can also carry over your proposals, but you also have more architectural elements or components that you can apply to your massing. So you have things like doors, walls, balconies, windows. You can add in some site-specific trees. But really, when you are going to be creating your building, it gives you three different options. The first is going to be generic, but you also can do a residential or office. And the reason that I bring this up is that we'll be talking momentarily about modules. And for this example here, I specified a residential kind of building type as my kind of building that I want to be applied once I finish my massing. And we'll see exactly how that turns out once I create this massing here. Now, to create the massing, it's kind of similar to that building automation itself. I was able to kind of just trace out a perimeter boundary for my building, not again, not my site, but my building. And once I hit enter, I was able to then drag or hover over and extend up my overall kind of building here. I can specify on the right how many floors, the floor to floor height. But as you can see, my residential building has already applied these modules to it. And these modules are something that you can create and set up and determine yourself and apply yourself to these various massings that you create. Um, and to do so, really, it's more about cycling through these different views that building design gives you. So, for example, here, I have floor plans and elevations. I'm going to select an elevation view. You can double click on the side of your massing. It'll bring up an elevation view. And you can see that it's giving me already a kind of module distribution. So I can see right away, hey, these are how many studios I have versus two bed, two baths versus one bed, one bath, all by just the facade breakdown here. It also gives me some type of element distribution so I can kind of see, hey, how many 5x6 windows do I have on this facade? How many do I have overall in this project? You can get some really great data just from a few clicks when you generate the massing itself. You can also toggle through other elevation views, and again, we can really just focus in on these modules here. Now, the modules themselves can be renamed really whatever you would like. For this, because it's more residentially geared, it makes sense to do it more as the unit mix breakdown. But let's say that we want to adjust some of how these modules are laid out. You can simply select the module, go to edit, and it brings you into an even more focused interface here where you can apply or add various architectural components directly to this module itself. So if I wanted to say, hey, every one bed, one bath also gets a balcony, or maybe it gets a third window here, I can then bring in that component, apply it, and then once it is saved out, it'll automatically update while providing me a window to wall ratio, it'll automatically update on my facade for me. So again, it's kind of nesting in those various modules there. It's super helpful to use. Pretty intuitive. Again, generally speaking, this is something that is more of a drag and drop type of software. Once you get the lay of the land, it really is helpful and pretty quick to use. The other piece is that you can also create and generate floor plans directly in Forma. So again, remember how I said that we can create and drag and drop building components? Well, walls and interior walls are another piece to that. So in my floor plan view, I can just click once, click again, similar to how Revit works, and I can begin drawing walls, generic walls in my building. I can also place and add a few doors in here if I would like to. And as soon as I do, again, very similar to Revit, I can just click and move and modify the wall as I see best. So you can create some floor plans here. And as you see on the far right, the floor plan that I would be creating can apply to more than one floor. So floor 3 through floor 20 is what this layout would be. I could specify individual floors if I wanted to for custom floor plans, or if I want to apply a singular floor plan layout to a tower like this to get some quick data for unit mixes and things like that. I also have that ability there too. But the best piece to this is that I can, again, have this all done fairly quickly. And of course, I can always pop back to site design, but I can also export this massing that I've done directly to Revit. So again, there are some limitations for the importing side, but you can, for the form of building design piece, have the capability to export directly to Revit as well. And of course, you can always pop back to site design here, like I mentioned. And once you do, you can run all of those analytical pieces again. So everything kind of works harmoniously together in this kind of Forma workspace. So again, here's just a quick shadow study of that new building massing as it relates to everything else that I created previously. Over to you, Uchenna.
Thank you so much, Will. All right. All right, so that was phenomenal. So yeah, I mean, Forma really feels a lot like using Revit in a lot of ways, because it allows you to create groups, allows you to create very early conceptual, not just massings, but also some floor plans in there. And I think one of the really cool things is that there's a lot of great integrations that Forma Building Design allows you to use, that allows you to connect to some outside AI tools. So, so with that, once you get to a point in Forma where you have some images or a concept that you're confident about and you want to take it the rest of the way, I want to talk through what it will look like to actually use AI to render that. So before we do that, I want to talk about the general AI landscape. Now, there's a lot of tools that you can use to generate images or render images using AI. So we've outlined a couple of them here. Now, they fall into three general buckets. The first one are the foundational AI models. These are the ones that you might already be familiar with right now. Gemini and ChatGPT are the two that are doing pretty well at taking um, conceptual rendering, conceptual like 3D massings and turning it into a rendering. Then you have workflow platforms, which I'm going to talk about, and then enhancement tools. So workflow platforms, these are tools that refine AI renderings through upscaling, sharpening, or detail generation. So all these do is the workflow platforms like My Architect AI, if anyone has ever used it, they are not a large language model themselves. All they're doing is plugging in a large language model on the back end, and then they're giving you sort of like a better workflow customer experience on the front end for you to use. So sometimes they're priced a little higher because the limits are higher. You can produce images, you could produce more images than some of these individual tools will allow, but they just sort of create a sharper experience for someone who's not as AI native. Then you have enhancement tools, which will take a uh, uh, they'll take an image and basically improve it. So there's a lot of emerging tools that are out there, and many of them they're really cool. They allow you to they develop their own model, and all they're doing is allow you to take that image, blow it up, improve it, the whole nine. It's really cool. All right. Now, we're going to talk about two specific models. We're going to talk about a workflow between Gemini and Topaz Labs that we have explored. And again, we've tested pretty much every tool out there. So um, we felt pretty confident from the Gemini through Topaz Labs connection. Now, the reason why we went with Gemini is one, if through your workplace, if your workplace uses Google or Gmail as its like company email, we use Gmail as our company email. Um, then Gemini is likely included within your subscription. Your administrator just needs to approve you to use it. So that means you don't have to pay any additional money to use Gemini. You likely have the ability to hop into Gemini and start producing images today. Topaz is a paid platform. They have many different tools within it. So we'll talk about how this works. So before we get there, there's three things that you need to keep in mind before you start popping images into any of these tools to render. The first thing you need to keep in mind is one, you have to be able to set constraints. Um, if you drop in sort of like a general screenshot and you tell AI, hey, render this image, you may not like what you get. It's AI works best when you give it a lot of constraints to operate against. You need to also give it real context. So otherwise, it's just going to hallucinate and pretty much come up with anything. So so the more examples you can provide, the better. Uh, Hold on, lost my mouse. All right, there we go. All right, and then the last one, which is also a tricky one, is to iterate in steps. So that means that if you develop a prompt, don't expect to get the final image in one prompt. You might have to prompt it over and over again to get the final image. Okay. So let's talk through a workflow. So I have one that I've set up, and this is going to be a workflow that will take that. So we're going to take that image that well set up inside of Forma. And just for context, so this is downtown Boston. So that building that well set up, we're going to take it, we're going to drag and drop that image into Gemini. And we're just going to write a pretty simple prompt. Um, I'm going to tell Gemini, hey, render this image, but maintain the aspect ratio, which is really important because Gemini has a habit of completely changing the aspect ratio to, try to give you what it thinks you want. All right, so we'll basically hit the render button on this image and we'll see what it comes up with. All right, so it looks like, so it's going to give me what it thinks I need. Now, this is downtown Boston, so I want to give it more context. So I'm actually going to go to Google Maps and type in that exact address. And yeah, so I'm going to go to Google Maps, type in that exact address, which is 101 Seaport Boulevard. Drop drop my person in here and try to get like around exactly where that shot is supposed to be, right? Now, when I ran this the first time, I made a rookie mistake. I'm going to take a screenshot uh, this um, of this screen and then give it to Gemini. Now, again, Gemini doesn't like too much information. I want Gemini to first update this road condition, and then and I wanted to use the Google Map reference to do that. Now I took a screenshot of my whole screen, so once I run this, Gemini will likely get confused because it's going to think that it needs to update my Google Maps image. It's not, my prompt wasn't 100% clear. So you'll see that in a minute. But when you iterate in steps, um, my goal is to one, change the road, then change the buildings, then kind of go through steps in changing my image. So it rendered it, but it gave me sort of the map finders and Google Maps elements that I really don't want. So what I'm going to do is inside of Gemini, Gemini has this tool here called the Doodle, and all it allows you to do is mark up that image and say, hey, it allows you to mark up that image and give Gemini further instructions like, hey, can you get rid of like all the Google Map elements here? Because I just don't need it. So I'll give it that instruction. Awesome. It got rid of it. So my image looks pretty good. Now I'm gonna pop it into I'm gonna save it, then pop it into Topaz. And Topaz has several tools. The main one I'm gonna use is called Bloom. So we'll pop it into Bloom. And then once it's in, so Topaz has a few if you've never used it before, it's a pretty awesome tool. The key thing behind this one is usually the renderings that come out of Gemini, they're gonna be at a lower resolution. So to use that image that you've gotten, and we can do further cleanup, like maybe remove this Autodesk Forma logo, or like we could clean this up further, but I just want to show you how this works. Um, Topaz, what this is going to do is one, is going to upscale this whole image and blow it up to 4K or even 6K. Um, and you basically set how much you wanted to alter this image. Now, the key thing that we want to happen with this image, and this is important, with most AI tools, when you ask AI to either blow up an image or enhance it in any way, what it likely does is change the image. We don't want to change the image at all. We want to keep this image exactly how it is, but enhance it so that we can get further use out of it, or use it in a presentation or use it in some type of marketing collateral. So Bloom did it. I'm going to zoom in and you'll see the difference. So the left is the source, the right is the blow up from AI. It went through and really edited everything, even down to the grass, which is like always my test to see, hey, how did it do there? So this is sort of the first workflow that we went through. Now, when I went through this for the first time, I hit a ceiling. And I went through probably like, this video is sped up, but I probably went through 10 prompts of image prompts, like kind of changing it and saying, hey, update this, update that. And then I hit a ceiling where Gemini said, hey, come back in 2 hours and you can prompt some more, which, I was like, okay, fine, I'll do that. So keep in mind that, again, depending on what tier of Gemini you have, you're going to run up against limits. But even outside of what's posted here, those limits will change pretty frequently because the image generation and editing is in pretty high demand. But nonetheless, my goal is really just to get like a general image of what I need that has all the elements of what I was looking for, and then use a different platform to blow it up. Now, I'm going to try this again. This time we're going to use, we'll do an interior shot. So we'll go into Revit and I'm going to take a camera and just take an interior shot of a unit. This is my Autodesk practice project that I'm looking at. So I want to just get this studio apartment, this two-story studio, and maybe snap an image for some marketing collateral. Now, I'm gonna be pretty lazy about this. I'm not gonna export the image. I'm literally just gonna screenshot it. We'll keep this just easy as pie. So we'll copy that and then we'll open Gemini and then we'll literally plop that in. Now, what um now, Gemini and most other AI platforms will give you is sort of these presets. The presets are basically pre-prompted um, images that are prompted that you're pretty much telling the platform like, hey, in addition to whatever I give you, add in this other prompt that'll make this image look cinematic. So I'm gonna go with the cinematic one and then I'll copy and paste my render, and I'm just going to tell it to render this image, but maintain my aspect ratio. All right, so we'll do that. It's going to think for a bit, and boom, here's my image. Now, it did cheat a little bit because there is definitely not two window. Well, there's two windows in my shot, but it added a second one. So you do have to be kind of strict with how it treats light, and say, hey, Gemini, get rid of that window. It doesn't exist. But I would say this is a pretty good one-to-one of the shot that I originally gave it. Now, let's say I want to add some furniture, right? Um, we'll go to IKEA's website and I'm first gonna try to pop in maybe a kitchen island. Um, Now IKEA has families of almost all their products, so you don't need to do this with IKEA products. But let's say you do have a product that you want to put into your scene, and you know that you don't have a family for it, or you don't want to make the family. This is a pretty good use case of using AI to bring that element in there. So it pretty accurately brought in my kitchen island, which is awesome. So I'm gonna try some more. Let's try a sofa. So we'll go to IKEA site. Let's find a good sofa that I like. Let's try this one. Um, and I'm gonna grab this image and let's try popping in the sofa and I don't know, maybe the sofa and the lamp. Let's see how it does adding two things here. All right, so it's going to think about that for a bit. All right, so it popped in my sofa. Yeah, it looks like it popped in my sofa and my lamp, but the lamp's in a weird spot, so which I don't really like. And I asked it to take that lamp out. So I think I was too ambitious there. So I'm gonna ask it to take the lamp out. But I do like how it places the sofa. The sofa does seem maybe a little smaller or maybe out of scale, which then, what I might do is go back into Revit, put in more of a generic sofa, and then tell AI to change it. But nonetheless, I'm going to take that image again, pop it into Bloom or Topaz, and tell it to pretty much bump this up to 4K so that we can get some more useful value out of this. Um, so we'll get it to process. And again, I'm going to set it to low because I don't want Bloom to change the image. I just want it to enhance it. So you'll see it's going to sort of soften my picture and it's a little softer because it added all these additional pixels in there. So that is those are the two workflows that we've figured out and that we've come up with. So what are the final thoughts here, right? Because we showed you Forma, we showed you some workflows with Gemini, how those generally work. And one of the things that we see and understand about these tools is that, it's given teams this incredible ability to iterate, adapt, and to communicate ideas much quicker than they ever were able to. And, if you're watching this and seeing this for the first time and thinking, man, I would love to take these workflows back to my office or incorporate it into our workflow. The first thing I would recommend is to just play with the tools and see what you get out of it. Develop your own sort of like process for it, your own workflows for the tools. Um, See what you like, what you don't like, and then once you kind of have sort of like a general level of comfort with what you're using. The next part is to figure out a way to standardize it to make it repeatable and scalable. Now, that's obviously something that our team at Revigas can help with. We are masters at developing BIM standards and workflow standards for design technology. So with that, I'm going to open it up for Q&A. If you guys, if you have a question, you could put that question into the Q&A panel or pop it into the chat and we'll take any questions. Now, this is really cool. And now actually one question I do have for Will. Um, so Will, in earlier when you were going through the Forma building design panel, the one question I do have is how how long does it take to like does it take you to go from this like here's a building that we initially like were playing with and rendering and mocking up around, how long did it actually take you to get to this end result?
To be honest with you, probably a matter of a couple minutes. It really comes down to what you specifically have in mind. For me, it was pretty quickly because I had it just set to a bunch of modules that were automatically applied to the skin of my building. Granted, if you wanted to have a little bit more customization, you could definitely do so. Um, but in theory, once you extrude up that massing and if you have a certain module arrangement applied, it really takes no time at all.
That's cool. Awesome. So it looks like here at the top you added like sort of this string of balconies and so you had like this unit mix for one bedroom, two bedroom that you can populate throughout the building.
Yep, exactly.
Awesome. Cool. So, hey guys, it was such a pleasure hanging out with you guys. Again, we're gonna work hard to continue to give you all the best information on the current AI tools out there, but also all the latest updates with Autodesk. So, we're happy to support anyone here in their journey as they navigate these tools and develop new workflows for their team. But with that, guys, it was a pleasure talking to you, and thank you so much for joining us. Talk soon.
Thank you so much.